Yeah, I think if that's the case, it's not a huge problem because when I edit, I can take your channel off.
Roger
And
that.
as long as it's not bleeding over into ours, it's going to be fine.
I really don't like bleeding into others, Ted. It's kind of a practice. It's kind of a commitment that I
This
have.
poor judge, the way you all are going, he's probably got things to do. And he's going to bail on us before we even record.
He would never.
I respect your time, Judge.
He would
Damn
never.
professional, Ted.
He would never bail. Okay, all right. Are you ready now for me to kick it off? I was about to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here we go. Buckle up, everyone.
The Hollow Buddy. And we all feel hollow sometimes.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Hollow Bunny Leadership Podcast. I am Kristen Zeman, and I am here with my stunning co-host, Sylvia Moyer. We are both former police chiefs, but this podcast is not just for cops. It is for anyone who is interested in talking about life and leadership, particularly the lessons that we have learned about both. So today, I have the privilege of introducing who is filling our bunny today. His name is Judge Paul Herbert. And I will say, Sylvia, you teed me up a little bit because, as everyone knows, I moved here from Illinois, didn't know anyone here. And like most budding, beautiful relationships, we met on the pickleball court.
Come on.
There's a whole backstory there, Judge. Sil and pickleball, it's kind of like this. But we met on the pickleball court. And the cool part about, just being in a new place is you get to know people. And that encounter brought us to dinner with Judge Paul Herbert and his beautiful wife, Barb, who is also very established in her own right. I call her Esquire. He is a graduate of Ohio State University and Capital University Law School. And after a brief time in private general practice, he joined the staff of Franklin County Prosecutor's Office and served as a trial attorney. And then he assumed the role of clerk of the Franklin County Municipal Court, where he spent the next 7 years before being elected to judge in 2003. And he was then reelected to that position in 2009 and again in 2015. So, Judge, welcome to the Hollow Bunny podcast.
Thank you very much. I've never played pickleball in my entire life.
Oh, the lies.
I don't know. You look awfully bronzed.
and fit. Oh,
and
the lies.
fit.
The lies. See, Sil, it's good things happen in pickleball. It's not all terrible. It's good. It's good.
I agree.
Okay.
So,
Judge, this is why I wanted to have you on, because we've had so many conversations about our careers, and you are, of course, you've now stepped away from the bench and are now enjoying retirement, but you did a lot of stuff during your career. So first of all, let me ask you, did you always have aspirations to move to the bench, or was there a pivotal point in your career where you decided, man, I want to transcend to the bench from being an attorney? What was that thought process?
I actually come from sort of a family of lawyers and judges, and I decided I was going to become a doctor until I flunked out of math and chemistry. And then I figured I better follow in the family footsteps. So that's when I went to law school and did well and graduated and got into politics, and the rest is history.
No kidding. So here's what I really want to focus on is the time when you were sitting on the bench. As we got to talking, this is why, it's always so interesting listening to people's backgrounds and their lifelong experience. But the thing I really want to hone in here is that while you were judge, you proposed a specialized program focusing on human trafficking victims. And I know that has become your passion and your lifelong work. And this is a big topic of conversation. It always has been, but it's been brought to the forefront by, movie about about human trafficking. And as we know, and especially being in law enforcement, we're very familiar with it, but not everyone is, because it's one of those things where you can kind of wear blinders and go about your life. But, human trafficking can happen to anyone, but we know that people are more vulnerable than others. But tell us how you got interested in this particular, topic, and how it transcended, and how you then launched this particular program.
Well, now you're right. We do have a lot of media coverage. It's the big topic now. But back in 2007, the only really relationship we had, there wasn't even a law against human trafficking back then, if you can believe that. So I was sitting in a very busy arraignment court, and every time I was in arraignment court, the same women seemed to come through. It was the revolving door crime, was prostitution. And no one ever seemed to be able to do anything about it. We labeled it the world's oldest profession. Movies like Pretty Woman were out there, and we all just figured, well, it was a choice that women make, and might be a bad choice. But when I kept seeing the same women come through month after month, and they did not look very happy. They didn't look like Julia Roberts at all. We started asking questions as to, how did you get here? What happened to you, rather than, what's wrong with you? That starting to open the door to what the truth is behind this. And it's a very almost typical background of abuse and vulnerability, which leads them into the hands of people that can take advantage of them when they're young, and groom them, if you will, for manipulation and love and things like that they don't understand, and then get them hooked on drugs, and then make them perform all sorts of crimes. It's not just sex; it's all sorts of crimes, which we can get into later. But we broaden this out, and they're having to go down to with a check cashing, check kiting and things like that. So we started to learn about this, and I started to say, well, how come nobody else is talking about this? How come nobody else knows this? And we just started a program, and we did a lot of listening, and found out that this is a common scenario for women all across the entire globe, wasn't just in Ohio. And so we were able to work hard to get something done. Very proud of that.
Man, you said that the results have been absolutely miraculous. And I know that you and I have talked about some of these individuals who have come through your court, and who have they're survivors. They've managed to turn their lives around and escape that hold from their abuser. Talk to us about some of your best success stories.
Well, it's something that is amazing to see, to a person who has had no parenting skills at all. They're a drug addict, they're a single mom, and they're a prostitute. You would think they have no chance in America, right? But as it turns out, these folks are extremely bright. They're very motivated. They want to be good mothers. They want to be reunited with their communities. And so we have women. I just wrote a letter of recommendation to the nursing board. One of the women is just become a registered nurse. So you go from, drug addict, human trafficking victim, to registered nurse.
Wow.
We also have, they're buying houses, cars, reunited with their families. It's really amazing.
Wow. I have to ask you, there's a tendency for folks to just process people like output, right? Judge, what was it that made you dive in and begin asking different questions, and then to take different kinds of actions as a result of what you discovered?
Well, I had a lot of people around me when I started asking these questions that were very bright, and they gave me books and literature that I started reading. And literally, when I saw that the world had it all wrong, I felt that, boy, what if a middle-aged white man stood up for women and started talking about how important they are and how great they could become?
Yeah.
And, what's that Christoph book? Half the Sky. This is the greatest
Oh,
book
okay.
I've ever read. Half the Sky, because the chauvinistic men of this tribe, and this, Sylvia, this is the actual point when I decided to turn this around. The men of this chauvinistic society, which most of them are, went up to the wise man on top of the mountain and said, "What should we do about all these women in our village? They want us, have rights, and they want to be able to speak at meetings, and they want to be able to vote, and all this other stuff." And the old guy looked up and said, "Well, I believe that women hold up half the sky," and that's
Wow.
really cool. That's a really cool thing. And it turns out it's true. You all should read that book. And so we tried, and we got funding, we started, and the results were amazing, and women graduating and becoming leaders, and they actually have formed their own community in Columbus as well. So it's really cool.
Oh my God, that's remarkable. So you touched on something there, is that, people look at some of the victims of these traffickers and they think, well, these are choices. They're prostitutes. This is a victimless crime because they chose this. So tell us about the significant risk factors. What makes a person vulnerable to human trafficking?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that, because I believe that could be the most important one for your listeners. I once did a discussion at when I was training FBI agents, and I needed a catchy title to try to get people interested. And I said, if your child doesn't have a cell phone, you can skip this class. Everybody's child has a cell phone, right?
That's catchy, Judge.
So the kids are out there and they're young, and there's a whole bunch of unprotected chat rooms and things that you and I probably aren't aware of. And these guys are out there trying to find out who's vulnerable. So the push factors for these kids are just mom gets a divorce, has a new boyfriend, loves the new boyfriend. New boyfriend starts sneaking in to her room in the middle of the night, changing her clothes or touching her or whatever you want to put it, but abusing her. She reaches out to mom and says, "Hey, mom, this bad stuff's happening with new boyfriend." Mom goes to new boyfriend, confronts him. He says, "I don't know what's wrong with her. She's got a daddy issue," or whatever it is. Mom doesn't believe the girl 9 times out of 10. So nothing happens to the guy, and the abuse continues. And she runs away from home. The saying out there is, boys run away because we're stupid, but girls are running away from something when they run away from home. And so they run away. They're out there. They're vulnerable. They don't know where to go, what to do. So they couch surf for a while, and then they get in with some bad friends. That they go to a party, and there's a guy there that can recognize her as vulnerable. Or she's on her phone and a guy wants to meet her, come to this party. Do you want to be a model? You're so pretty. I think I'm really attracted to you. This grooming then starts. So problems at the home lead to runaway, lead to vulnerability on the cell phone and chat rooms. And then these guys work their way in, get them to fall in love with them. And then it's over.
Mm.
And so these aren't just these are, and this is another, I think, maybe a misnomer about who the traffickers are. It's like we think that this is the pimp from the back alley, and as it turns out, that perpetrators of human trafficking, they span all racial, ethnic, gender demographics and are as diverse as the survivors. Say more about that, especially the ones that use privilege and wealth and power as a means to control.
Yeah, they are. There are people that want to get rich off of selling another human being. That's one of the crimes of all our history. And so they're finding their slaves or their victims any way they can. And so that's going to attract anyone, any race, any sex, women traffickers, men traffickers, foreign, domestic. You name it. And I really did not spend my career studying the traffickers. We were more in the victim side rather than that. And so we would basically, if testifying was part of a woman's journey to get free, then we supported her during her journey through the court system in order to put that guy away for as many years as they possibly could. So that was kind of I never became like a trafficker expert, if you will.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I do want to kind of pull on this thread, Judge. I have learned, and I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot about the pathway to human trafficking, about the victim. What are some of the indicators? You have enlightened us to this is really a crime about money and profit. I'd like to explore this piece that says, maybe uncomfortably, says something about you and your leadership, and the nobility of the profession you were in, using the seat that you were in to really amplify the message, to shine a light that if you weren't a judge of such high esteem, what would potentially have occurred? Can you kind of explore that with us a little bit?
I actually underestimated it, but it turned out to be the greatest benefit, Sylvia. You hit the nail right on the head, because you know what? People will answer when a judge calls you and wants to sit down and meet with you.
You bet.
I was the lowest level judge on the face of the earth, but I'd like called the president of Ohio State University. Next thing you know, I'm meeting with him. I went literally, and I don't know, it was this passion that I had to bring this to the fore. And so it really helped out, meet with the mayor of the city of Columbus. Boom, yeah. I'm sitting down next to him, and the city attorney, the prosecutor, the sheriff, we're all sitting there together, and I'm putting all this out. So we're able to use that position to significantly move the needle in Ohio and maybe across the country. And it was awesome. So yeah, Sylvia, that's great.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot, that Kristen and I, we've been police chiefs, right? And so we talk about amplifying the message, to use the office to gain access to tables, to have a seat at a table for which we wouldn't have a seat otherwise. And we say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we use that office to get a seat at the table, to then have a different conversation, to perhaps scaffold individuals or to shine a light on a different path. What do you say to people that are listening that are like, I can use my office, my title for something bigger than what I originally intended or imagined? What do you say to those folks?
Do it. I mean, absolutely. You've got that position for a reason. You just reminded me, I had a meeting with the chief of police for the city of Columbus, and I didn't think I was going to be able to get in to see him because he was a super busy dude, and I was just a low-level judge. I wrote him a letter, and we have a human trafficking task force in Ohio, and I wanted Columbus, Ohio to have the most number of members of that task force because we had the most amount of trafficking going on in our city. And so I made the request. Next thing you know, I'm in this incredible building downtown Columbus. Like, it took my breath away. They actually gave me a parking spot in the police building. It was incredible. What? And I walked up to the guy and I said, my generation might have been the one that brought this to the attention of people, but your generation has to be the one that's going to do something about it. And, we talked about this. I said, you got 49 detectives on your auto theft squad. You got 2 guys that, in the entire city of Columbus working human trafficking cases. Come on. And so we were able to build up that task force to a robust number. And then that led to much more sophisticated investigations, RICO charges, guns, drugs. It's all tied together. Guns, drugs, sex. It's all tied together. So the human trafficking guys got to work with the drug people and the guns. It was great. It was awesome. And I'm like, look, you got these drug guys breaking down doors in hotel rooms, and they go in and there's all these guns and drugs, and you've got 3 15-year-old girls sitting on a bed with $100 bills.
What's
And
the
you just
plan,
told children,
fellas?
you're losing out on the most important part of your investigation. So
Human
I'm sorry,
beings.
I'm getting amped up now, man.
We want you fired up, Judge, and it cracks me up that you're saying I was just a low-level judge.
Right.
It's like, what?
Is so humble,
What?
isn't he? This is why I fell in love with him. He's just amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting because there's a message there to people that think, well, I'm just a police chief in a small agency in Iowa. It's like, come on, use that office for access, or I'm not a major city chief. I'm just a mid-sized city chief. It's just so jarring to me to hear you say that, both from a human perspective, just a judge, which is we kiss the ring. But it's also, I think, a message to folks to not diminish based on where you sit in the judge hierarchy, the doctor hierarchy, the police chief hierarchy, or whatever.
If I may, though, let's even expand that ripple effect to,
Do it.
that's people who can use their office. Absolutely. But let's talk about people who say, that's great, but what can I do? Right. And this is what they often ask me about mass shootings is what am I supposed to do? How can I thwart the next mass shooting? And the answer is by being very observant, by listening to your surroundings. And we have found that those who report things, even when they're not sure, and what stops people from reporting them, even though their spidey senses start tingling, what stops people from reporting is because they think, oh gosh, what if I'm wrong? Or, ooh, I don't want to get that person in trouble. And I would say, and Judge, I mean, help me out here, but wouldn't the same be true when you are looking at someone who could potentially be a victim of trafficking, where you see someone with, an older person or someone who looks as though they're afraid? So what are some signs that just all of us every day as we move about the world can observe and then report?
Yes. So thank you. That's a brilliant point, because we started branching out from the police. Let's just say you're a school teacher and you've got, a middle school girl that comes in, and she was sitting in the front row looking all nice and raising her hand. And she comes in after summer break and she's sitting in the back of the class with her head down, and you're giving her detentions because her grades are slipping. Rather than giving her a detention, why don't you gain her trust and start asking questions as to why her behavior has changed? If you're a pediatrician, if you're a nurse in a hospital, these are all folks we reached out to. You see a girl come in with an older man who doesn't want to let her out of his sight, right? Or the telltale sign of all is branding tattoos. She gets a tattoo on the side of her neck here, and it doesn't look like, a little star or a peach or something like that. It says King or I love Steve or whatever. It's a weird tattoo. And, I've even asked, women, hey, how'd you get that tattoo? And they're like, oh, it's my boyfriend. No, it's their trafficker. So these guys put these brands on them. We even had a woman come through the program where her trafficker put the brand property of Salem right above her private parts. So it can get as ugly as you want to go. But almost anybody out there, you're in church, you're a church member, you're a neighbor in the neighborhood, and you see behavior changing. Like you say, she's got an older boyfriend. She's 16 and her boyfriend's 23. That's feeling a little weird, isn't it, Kristen? That's kind of your spidey sense going off. He's 23, she's 16. Come on, what's going on? Maybe mom and dad have just divorced, or start adding these facts up. And then obviously signs of drug abuse or physical abuse. They start to become emaciated. They're traveling a lot the farther they go along. So almost anyone can recognize this, and you can go out on the World Wide Web and thanks Al Gore, and you can look up the signs of what human trafficking victim looks like, and they've got a lot of great stuff out there.
I recently saw something that was generated apparently by the Canadian Women's Foundation that is designed to be discreet and silent, that it is a one-hand signal for distress. And it bears kind of having a conversation about this, and those folks that are watching on YouTube can see it, but I'll describe it. It's a one-hand signal for distress where you face your palm forward, tuck your thumb in, and then close your fingers over your thumb. And it was new to me in preparation this weekend for really sitting with you, Judge, and this incredible work you've done for which you've received not only the effects of watching people transform their lives, being firsthand witness to it, amplifying the necessity with your office and being a judge. You received several awards for your courage and your work in this space. Besides all that, I wanted to learn more. And what I discovered was this hand signal. And then I saw out on your World Wide Web, Judge, I saw this actually some footage seeing this. So it is a one-hand signal of wrap the thumb in and put the fingers over the thumb. And I watched some videos that showed other people seeing that, recognizing it as a silent distress signal and intervening on behalf of women, and then separating the male in the cases that I saw from the woman that gave that distress signal. What do you say about this kind of consciousness? And I'd love you to tie this into what Kristen's saying. What can individuals do?
You know, this is the first I'm hearing about the hand signal. I think it's a brilliant idea. And if this is the first I'm hearing about it, then I think we probably need more awareness, even though
it hasn't gotten to Florida yet. It takes a minute.
Wait, isn't it? Didn't you say? See, Canadians, they always start everything that's good. It's a Canadian hockey,
maple syrup,
hockey. Yeah. Okay, but carry on. No,
okay.
I have not heard about that either, at least in mainstream.
Right, and I think there's the Canadian Women's Foundation is really saying, look, I've been on a plane. Kristen's on planes all the time. I go into the restroom, and on the back of the door is, "Are you in distress?" Here's a number to call, text, or alert your flight attendant. There's also that nonverbal one-hand signal. And I think what you started, I'm going to give you attribution. What you and other courageous folks have started is a consciousness around the issue, right? And Kristen speaks to this a lot. What can one person do to mitigate an active shooter? What can one person do to intervene when a woman is in distress? It's really, really compelling.
Yeah, that's a really difficult question, especially in our society. When you're not sure what's going on, you want to be a good Samaritan, but this trafficker is going to have a lot of things in place that are going to try to thwart you from, like, in other words, she's got pat answers when the police come and talk to her. He's already coached her on how to talk to the police. And it's, police listen, they engage, they interview, and then they let her go back with them, so it's a very difficult question. Go ahead.
That's what makes this so difficult to uncover, because and I think that's where people get frustrated, and where it's also become where it's, well, if they don't want to help themselves, when that's not the case at all. And people would think that, well, you had an opportunity to tell and you didn't take it. But then I worked 5 years as a domestic violence detective, so I know the psychology behind the victim of domestic abuse looking at me, a police officer, and saying, "I'm fine, he didn't do anything to me," when I can see the evidence of that happening, because they're not that right there in that moment. For you and I, we might think, here's your opportunity. They're saving themselves from the next beating, from the next abuse, because eventually, that person may get out of jail, or they may find themselves back with them. And then they use that, well, you told on me. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. And it makes it so difficult to uncover and to prosecute, which is why this is one of the most complex problems that we have facing our society present day.
Yeah, I mean, you touched another great point, that synergy, that the power and control in domestic violence is the same as it is in sex trafficking. So you got to somehow get to the people that can listen. SANE nurses, the sexual assault nurses, they used to get these women in who were raped and who finally got the courage to report a rape. And I can't tell you how many of them have guilty complexes now because they treated them like dirt and never got the evidence because of what you're saying. So you get a SANE nurse, you get all those folks that can somehow be a part of that. But you're right, Kristen, they don't trust the police. They've been burned before and they're trying to survive. So it's all about awareness, and I think having resources available that are real and that can significantly help them, because they may have a couple little kids and need a roof over their head and don't know where to turn. So I think you hit the nail on the head, Kristen. Chief.
Ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Well, listen, go ahead, Sil. Go ahead.
So I was going to ask you, it's tough work, no doubt, being a judge and doing the work that you did. What would you say filled your bunny? I'm guessing the hollow bunny story. It's kind of that empty suit, that person that looks shiny but doesn't have much substance. We've all seen them. We may have worked with them or for them. What fills your bunny to keep you courageous and keep you on this leadership path?
It was a lot of research, and I had people around me that were brilliant. A group of women who, I tell you what, when I learned to listen to them and didn't try to run the show myself, we did, for your leaders out there, one of the best things we did was we went through leadership classes where they found out what kind of leader you are. It's kind of like a Myers-Briggs and that was part of it. But once I learned that my leadership style was driving them crazy, I didn't realize that I have a vision. I have a knack for vision. I can see things as they are 10 years from now, but you want me to go through and execute that? I'm like, hell no, because I'm already on the next thing. So I have this weird thing that I would go in the office and I would say, hey, you guys, what do you think about this? Because this is what this is where I think this could be if we, started this in middle schools, and my staff was like, oh my God, Judge, right? That's a really good idea, Judge, but we're like 7 steps behind you now. So, but they were afraid to talk to me. So one of the best things I did is we went to a leadership conference, and the dude that led it was awesome. And he affirmed my gift as a visionary, but he really sat down and said, bro, you need to slow down and have a way to communicate to your people that they can handle. And I saw that on your list of questions, and I wanted to throw that out there because, you may be a different style, and you need to know what different style people that you're working with. Are they the executors? They're your best friends. They're strapping on the guns and going to war for you, Are they the guy in the room that's going, dude, this could work? You got to have them too. You got to have them all. So I don't know about if that fills anybody's bunny, but that's my story.
No, I love that. That's brilliant because you're so right. You've got the visionary among us and then those who are very detail oriented, and it all really does fit into the great mosaic of leadership. And, there's not one right answer. And I think that especially on this podcast, we spend a lot of time talking about how to become better leaders, what we recognize as great leaders, and then those that we don't want to emulate. And I think just that acknowledgement of what kind of leader you are and then who you lean on to get the job done, is all part of filling that bunny. So no, that was a great answer. So listen, Judge, we won't keep you all day, although I would absolutely love to, but
I'd love it.
Yeah, I would absolutely love it.
A judge that says dude and bro with such ease.
Judge Paul Herbert, you are an amazing man. And one of the things that you said that I really just want to reiterate and make sure that people hear that again is often in life, we say what's wrong with you versus what happened to you. And that just asking what's wrong with you makes us judge a person because we truly we just don't understand. And that's where it comes down to, is genuine understanding and curiosity about another human being. And you mentioned, we didn't even touch on the drug abuse and what you have seen in some of these victims, going from those who have been honestly forced to become, to take drugs and then become addicts. And then, that's a whole other conversation, but it's part of it. And so I just want to thank you for your life's work. And, as you know, I absolutely adore you as a human, as a friend. And then what I learned, what you've done, throughout your career is absolutely remarkable. And I just wanted to share it with the world. So thank you so much for coming on the Hollow Bunny podcast. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Well, everybody, I want to thank all of our Hollow Bunny podcast listeners, our little bunnies. And I want you all to know that Ted Madden produces this podcast, and the song you are about to hear was written and performed exclusively for this podcast by my very talented son, Jake Zeman, and his friends, Fabian and Zoe. If you like our podcast, please subscribe, like, review, and tell everyone you know about it. If you don't like it, move along. There's nothing more to see here. And keep filling your own bunnies with substance, and please continue to add substance to others. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
When you look inside, what do you find? Are you content to fall behind? When you lose your way and you've lost your why, have courage and get ready to fight the hollow bunny. When the way ahead is covered in smoke and you're tired and you're scared and you're losing hope, you'll open your heart and your eyes and see a challenge and a question. Why not me? To fight the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. When the challenge ahead scares you to death, you tame the imposter inside instead. To change the world, you've got to start small. It takes a leader to say, I don't know it all, and I know I'm gonna fall, but I'll pick it up and come back stronger, failing forward and moving onward, doing the hard thing and the right thing, forever fighting the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. The monster